Now, I would like to invite Kumarabhi Dev Singh Valoria for further proceedings.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shubra. And before I proceed, I must compliment that Shafinur, you have done a fabulous job, and we look forward for your association at such academic platforms too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
So,
much, sir.
um, yeah, thank you, Shubra, for giving me this opportunity to moderate the session of Dr. Kalimoddin Rashid Sheikh. Um, while I was going through his profile, and I could see that the profile is never-ending profile, sir. Yours is a very interesting profile. So let me tell you about our next chairperson, Dr. Sheikh Kalimoddin Rashid, who is Assistant Professor of English in Maulana Azad College of Arts, Science and Commerce in Aurangabad in India. He has 14 years of teaching English language and literature both at the UG as well as the PG level. And um, and his core area of interest lies in the post-colonial perspective, the culture and the national identity. Amazingly, with the literature, this is very impressive because this is somewhat part of my profile also, and I know it is very difficult. Uh, Dr. Rashid is also coordinator of skills enhancement program and in charge of English language laboratory, and he's so versatile that he is also the NSF program officer and the member of internal quality assurance cell, magazine committee, career counseling and guidance cell in his college. And he also acted as coordinator for UGC sponsored national seminar, which happened in 2015. And he had attended 14 training programs for professional development and has more than 2 dozens of research articles in the classified or well recognized journals. And he, as an author, he has 3 books to his credit and almost 2 dozens of presentation of his research articles at national and international conferences. And he is a recognized research supervisor, and at present, he is also supervising 5 researches under him. His area of research include American literature in English, cultural studies, and modern literary theory and criticism. Welcome, sir, and it was really an honor to introduce you, such an eminent person, and talking about your fields of interest. Literary criticism and cultural studies is a very upcoming field, and not lots of research has been done from the in India on it. So I wish you all the best and congratulate you that you are doing on it. And secondly, the profiles that you are handling are very impressive, and I don't know how you manage time. It seems like you maybe have 3 or 4 PAs running with you to handle all the profiles. Congratulations, sir, and welcome to this technical session as the chair. Now, I'm not being any barrier between you and the participants. I hand over the session to you. Thank you so much, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Good evening. Yes, sir, you are.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Abhimanyu sir, for the kind words. I think you spoke very high about me. uh, before before I proceed as a chairperson, I sincerely thank Dr. R.S. Regin Sylvester, President, Cape Comorin Trust, organizing team, and especially Dr. Morve Roshan, the convener, for inviting me as a chairperson for this 3 day international virtual conference on gender studies. I congratulate the organizers for this academic activity and wishing success not only for this conference but the would be academic assignments or engagements by this team and the trust in future. Friends, in this session, there are 5 presentations. So we'll take that first as per the schedule. I request the participant delegates to put their doubts, queries, or questions in the chat box so that there will be no interruption in between the presentation. After that, after the presentations, I'll take up these questions. The research papers to be presented in the session are study on income generation, activities of self-help group and motivational level of women self-help group members in Nagaland. It is by Enchum Thang Mari, R. Nakhro, and Sanjay Das. The second paper, entitled as The Comparative Study of Shikhandi Who Become a Man to Satisfy Her Wife and 7 Steps Around the Fire, by G. Ramakrishnan and Dr. G. Shashikala. The third paper, entitled as Gender Relations in Khasi Oral Tradition, Storytelling and Women, by Badakyanti Naila Ayangap. Our fourth research paper is Gender, Culture, Language and Literature through the perceptions of female issues in the selected text, by Sultana Rizwana Yasmin. And the final paper, that is fifth, Abdication of Bliss Compelled by Social Pressure in LGBT Community. It is by Akriti Kumari. So let's begin with the paper presentation. So I would like to invite Enchum Thang Mari.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm present here. I hope I'm audible.
And I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
You pronounce exactly right. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very much. Glad
My
to know
name
that.
is somewhat difficult to pronounce.
Thank you.
Shall I start presenting
Sure.
myself?
Yes.
Okay. Sure, sir.
Before you proceed, I would like to make an announcement. As per the instruction of the convener, every presenter will be given 10 minutes.
Okay, sir.
So please adhere the timing.
I'm having difficulty in sharing my screen. It's not showing right my screen.
Have a difficulty in sharing the screen?
Yeah. Is it visible on my screen?
Yeah,
It's
you can see
visible
it now.
My PowerPoint is
We can see it now.
Yes,
Look,
it is
my
visible.
Yes, I
PowerPoint
can
is
see it.
visible.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, thank you very much. Sir, so some haven't mute themselves and some background noise is there. Moreover, I'll continue with my presentation. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for giving me this opportunity to present my research paper. I'm very much grateful to the organizer for this wonderful opportunity. My topic of the study is study on income generation activities of self-help group and motivational level of women self-help group in Nagaland, India. This paper is authored by Nchumdung Muri, R. Nakro, and Sanjay Das from Department of Agricultural Economics, Nagaland University. This is the overview of my presentation. Introduction. Women empowerment is an important instrument for the inclusive socio-economic growth of the nation. Uh, the concept of self-help group acknowledges that financial assistance to the weaker section of the society contributing to the social and economic enrichment, financial sustainability, etc. The self-help group is the concept of self-help group is an architect of Professor Muhammad Yunus of Bangladesh in 1983, the Grameen Bank of Bangladesh, which started financial assistance to a group of uh, poor women or poor groups. Microfinance has obtained a universal avail as an important tool for poverty alleviation and women empowerment in many developing countries, where there is a substantial evidence that organizing women around thrift and graded service is one of the most effective methods, not only for alleviating poverty, but for empowering women. The concept of self-help group, I won't go in details. Let's say that today in India, self-help groups are increasingly accepted as an agent of social change and empowerment for the weaker section of the society. In the recent past, it has been observed that many government, NGO development schemes and social welfare-oriented schemes are targeting self-help groups in reaching out to the masses as they are easily accessible with a high degree of flexibility in approach. In this context, the present study was undertaken to identify different types of income generation activities that are taken by the self-help groups and to assess the motivational level gained by the tribal women, particularly the tribal women in Nagaland, as a result of their participation in self-help group. These are how the microfinancing or the growth of SHG take place in and around the world and even in India. Now I'll go to the research methodology. I did my research in Nagaland, the northeastern part of India, one state among the 8 northeastern state of India. And in Nagaland, I selected 4 districts, namely Wokha, Mon, Pek, and Dimapur districts of Nagaland. Multi-stage random sampling method was adopted for selecting the sampled SHG members. And altogether, 120 self-help groups and 360 self-help group members were selected for the detailed studies. The motivational level of the self-help group participation on social and economic variables was analyzed by collecting the opinion of the respondent covering various social and economic issues. The motivational level was measured in terms of the social participation and economic variables. This is a map of the study area, and the demographic features of the study area is shown in the table. And this is the sampling procedure that's followed for selection of sampled SHG as well as the respondent. And in reviews and discussion, income generation activities undertaken by a women's self-help group in Nagaland. Income generation activities undertaken by the self-help group serve as an engine for the growth and sustainability of self-help group in the long run, as they earn economic return and generate saving and profit to the group. There are diversified income generation activities undertaken by the women's self-help group in Nagaland, but in this paper, effort has been made to identify the most prominent enterprise undertaken by each self-help group considered in the study. In this table number 1, income generation activities undertaken by the women's self-help group are as given. These are different types of income generation activities that are undertaken by the self-help group. Serial number 1, group production. 33 self-help groups are involved in group production, which rank first. These are the primary activities, primary income generation activities. Other than group production, also they used to involve in different types of income generation activities. So this N is 120 self-help groups. So out of 120 self-help group, 33 self-help group are predominantly involved in crop production as their income generating source. Likewise, animal husbandry, 21 self-help group, value additions of food produce, including pickle making, jam making, and all. Handloom and weaving, 16 self-help group, gathering 15, PD shop 9, fishery 7, etc. So out of these seven most prominent income generation activities undertaken by the women self-help group in Nagaland, the crop production was ranked first, followed by animal husbandry, value additions of food produce, uh, weaving and handloom, gathering, etc. This table which I've already shown, I will not go into detail. So the next part of the paper is to study the socio and economic motivational level of the women self-help group participation. How motivated are the women as a result of their participation in self-help group? In order to measure the motivation level of the women self-help group member towards various social and economic issues, seven variables covering different social and economic variables are identified, and motivation level of the women SHU were women self-help group members towards various social and economic issues is given in table 2. So these are the different, there are seven variables which are identified for measuring their social and economic motivation level, such as participation in self-help group increase household income, participation in self-help group create employment opportunity, participation in self-help group help in overcoming household indebtedness, and so on. These seven variables, it covers social and economic aspect, mostly the economic aspect, and the respondents, the women self-help group participants, were allowed to were allowed to give their um, opinion on the degree of their agreement or disagreement, ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. SDA means strongly disagree to still SA, which is strongly agree. So these are the different ranks, these are the different scores which the separate group members that they were given on each factors of on each motivational factor. So participation in self-help group increase household income. This factor was ranked number one, followed by participation in several group create employment opportunity, and last was ranked by participation in several group enhance decision making ability on important family members. So these are the different factors. As I mentioned, it is evident that out of seven socioeconomic variables for determining the motivation level of self-help group member, the variable participation in self-help group increased household income obtained the highest score, that is 1,322, and was ranked first, followed by participation in self-help group great employment opportunity. Participation in self-help group helps in overcoming household indebtedness, and participation in self-help group enhance social participation of a woman, which was ranked second, third, and fourth respectively. So here I come to the conclusion. With the growing popularity of self-help group movement, many microfinancing institutions and funding agencies, including banking sector, emphasize on women beneficiaries. As women are found to be more reliable and financially viable, self-help group emerges a viable instrument for inclusion of socially and financially poorer and viable women into a mainstream of nation's growth and progress. In the state of Nagaland, self-help group movement have seen tremendous progress, especially among women. From the present study, it was concluded that many diversified income generation activities are undertaken by the self-help group as a viable economic source of income, such as crop production, animal husbandry, value addition of food produce, handloom, fishery, etc. It was also concluded that motivation level gain in terms of economic factor is more as compared to the social factor considered in the study. These are different policy implications which is suggested. I won't go into details. And thank you so much. I'll end my presentation from here.
Thank you, Enchum Thangmari. Thank you very much for being so concrete and precise and ending up your presentation within a stipulated time. So we'll
Welcome.
move to the next presenter, G. Ramakrishnan. G. Ramakrishnan, PhD scholar in English, Literature Department of English, School of Arts, Sciences, and Humanities. And one more is Dr. G. Shashikala, Assistant Professor, Department of English, School of Arts, Sciences and Humanities. And the title of their paper is A Comparative Study of Sikandi Who Become a Man to Satisfy Her Wife and Seven Steps Around the Fire. You can start your presentation, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir.
Welcome.
So shall I start sharing my screen, sir?
Yeah, you can start your presentation,
Fine.
please.
Okay, is it visible, sir?
Yes, it is visible, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. So thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, sir. So my title is A Comparative Study of Shikanti Who Became a Man to Satisfy Her Wife and Seven Steps Around the Fire. So I will be presenting the paper on behalf of my guide also, Dr. G. Shashikala, Assistant Professor at Department of English, School of Arts and Science and Humanities, Shastra Deemed to be University, Tanjavur. So before getting into the topic, I would like to say some short summary about the two literary texts that I have taken for my research. I mean the research paper. So first, Shikanti, who became a man to satisfy her wife, is a story taken from Shikanti and other quiet tales they don't tell you by Devdutt Patnaik. Devdutt Patnaik is a famous mythologist writer in 21st century. In this work, he talked about the birth and the life of a transgender, the famous transgender Shikanti. How the life of Shikanti uh, has played a very phenomenal role in Indian culture. And the second work that I have taken is a Seven Steps Around the Fire by Magesh Ratani. It is a play written by Ratani. Uh, this play is all about how modern transgender people are suffering in the hands of the heterosexual community. How the authority people are oppressing the subaltern people or marginalized people. Next, I would like to talk about the plight of transgender in India. Basically, India is known for its own culture, heritage, mythology, its own greed. So we have, apart from other countries, other Western countries, in India, transgender people have some distinctive place because we have many examples in our mythology, in our culture, in our religion. For an example, if you take Mahabharata, as I said earlier, we have Shikanti, a great, famous transgender. And if you take Ramayana also, there is a mention the Lord Rama himself accepted the third gender into his kingdom. And he gave the boon that they can bless anyone in the vacation of in the occasion of wedding or uh, children's. Next, even in the Mughal Empire, they were given the higher positions like administrators, higher official positions. But only after the colonization period, I mean the British colony, their basic rights have been neglected. They were considered as a criminalized under the IPC code 377. So they were started considered as a marginalized people. Their basic rights had been restricted. But in recent, I mean, in 21st century, we are happy to say that we have officially accepted the third. Sir, there is some problem, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes,
Okay.
nothing's there. Yes, you're audible.
So in 2014, there is a judgment in Supreme Court that they have officially accepted the third gender. I mean, the transgender as third gender in India. That means third gender have the equal rights in India. Next, last year, I mean 2019, there is an amendment, Transgender Person Protection of Rights Act 2019. It is also about the lives of, I mean, ensuring the lives of transgender people and their places in education, employment, medical fields, I mean, medical facilities, everything. This is our legal parts. So next, I will be moving into the my part. I mean the comparative analysis of lives of transgender people. So I have compared the lives of transgender people in Shikanti to Kamla. I mean the traditional to modern. The major difference that I have found in my comparison is in Shikanti's period. I mean the tradition period. Shikanti didn't have any societal problem. I mean any external problem. Okay, she had only the psychological problem. But when it comes to modern transgender people, it is not so. They have many social problems like sexual harassment, violations. We can say many things. So they have many social problems that automatically lead to psychological problem. So they have both psycho social problems. And if you take the tone, the setting is the main reason for any human being to live. I mean the environment. So we are not creating a good environment for those kind of people. They are different. That is not their mistake. But we should make a space for them to live. Our government is doing. But apart from the legal part, we need some social acceptance. Here, I'm going to conclude my paper that in 21st century we have developed many things, technological development, we have invented many innovations, many things have happened. But when it comes to humanness or humanity, we are degrading. That is the real truth. The degradation of humanness. Okay, we are not helping or we are not doing any humanness to other fellow human beings. So it is strange to talk about some queer people, but we have to talk. They are also human beings. So no personal and as well as social acceptance of transgender people nowadays. That is the real truth. And one more thing, I want to make it clear that mere laws cannot bring justice to any people. So we should give recognition, acceptance as a human being. They don't expect any luxurious life from us. They are asking only just whatever we want, we have to live as they wish. Okay. So we should let them to live their life. So they may be different by gender, not by heart, not by soul. So here I stop. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, G. Ramakrishnan, for summing up your ideas in an excellent manner. Now, the next paper presenter is Badakanti Naila Ayangap, and the title of presentation is Gender Relations in Khasi Oral Tradition, Storytelling and Women. Has the presenter joined? Badakanti Naila Ayangap. I can't see on screen Badakanti Naila Ayangap. So if Badakanti Naila Ayangap is not online,
Sir,
then
sorry to interrupt, sir. If the speaker is missing,
not
we can announce the name and wait for 30 seconds at least to see if the speaker can reconnect. Otherwise, we
we'll
can
wait,
shift.
sir. We'll wait. Yes,
I
sir.
will
Yes,
wait
sir.
for
I'll wait for.
another half minute, sir.
Yes, sir. Certainly, I'll wait for, sir. 30 seconds. So time is up now. Uh, Now I request Sultana Rizwana Yasmin, independent researcher, Guwahati University, India, Assam, to present a paper entitled Gender, Culture, Language, and Literature through the perceptions of female issues in the selected text.
Good evening, sir. Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Yes, ma'am, you're
Good,
audible.
good evening, sir, and all the paper presenters present here. So the topic of my paper is gender, culture, language, and literature relationship through the perceptions of female issues in selected texts. Women have always been a part of literature throughout the ages with race and gender issues in mind. Some critics deal with the theme of voice and silence, claiming that patriarchal surveillance causes female speechlessness. Women have often been depicted as a weaker and inferior being who could not think on their own. Patriarchy, as generally accepted, is not the sole source of female oppression because women seem to suffer oppression in the hands of fellow women, especially in the African cultural milieu. This paper aims at exposing constructive and deconstructive roles language can play in the process of gender construction and in favor, respectively, of societal and cultural norms, and trying to draw close insights of how certain stereotypes about men and women are perpetuated through language of literary text in the play A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen and Alice Walker's much acclaimed novel The Color Purple. For my comparative study, I have selected the drama A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen and Alice Walker's The Color Purple in the Western and African milieu, respectively. A Doll's House is set in the bourgeois society of late 19th century Norway, a place wherein respectability and status were valued above all else, whereas The Color Purple is set in the rural Georgia in the early 20th century, Western Africa, in a small village, and it focuses on the numerous women issues, including their exceedingly low position in the society. Trying to focus on understanding who holds power and who is powerless helps to reveal the cultural context in my selected text. The other common thread which forms the background for the selection of the two juxtaposed works for a single study and which also sustains my primary argument in this paper is that in both the works the writers strongly advocate for emancipation of women on their own terms, suggesting that they should not beg for sympathy from the capitalist male-dominated society around them, which has mercilessly exploited them enough for centuries. As a remedy, Alice Walker suggests forging strong bonds of sisterhood, even resorting to anti-establishment lesbianism among black women since they understand each other perfectly well and united they can stand to any oppression. While in Ibsen's play, Nora, the central character, takes a stand which represents a modern woman. She decides to go out into the real world to find out its reality for herself and to gain some position that is not fundamentally false, refusing to see her children again until she is fit to be in charge of them or to live with them until she and he became capable of a more honorable relation to one another. Nora slamming the door shut at the end of the last act alone has received a lot of attention and is at the center of a storm of controversy. This hinges upon a comparative outlook as well as an urge to examine two different works with similar backgrounds, creating characters face similar life conditions but ending up with different predicaments. The question of whether men and women speak differently is one that has been hotly debated for many years. Current thinking in linguistics suggests that male and female speech styles are not driven by biological differences. Instead, it is argued that speakers construct and perform gender identities for themselves. Alice Walker's The Color Purple unfolds with a marvelous interplay of language, gender, and power. Her conscious use of language produces new narrative strategies, discloses unheard stories of women, and transforms traditional concepts of gender roles. The depiction of the family life in A Doll's House strongly represents the patriarchal authority of power over the life of Nora, the main female character of the play. Nora's marriage turned out to be a game, a master slave contract licensed by the society wherein Helmer holds the central part. Towards the end of the drama, Nora makes a comparison of her situation to her relationship with her children. She says, I have been your doll wife. She further elaborates that her children are nothing more than toys to her, and in turn, she was Helmer's toy, existing only to be controlled and perform tricks. This equal distribution of power in the marriage reveals the inequality in family life in the society of a doll's house. While The Color Purple is a novel that emerges out of Alice Walker's central concern with defining the existence, experience, and culture of African American women and the brutally complex systems of oppressions, it deals with the role of male domination in frustrating the black women's struggle for identity and independence. It portrays how the women are oppressed and manipulated by men and humiliated into powerlessness. Walker's The Color Purple scrutinizes the success and failures of various means and methods employed to keep women in the position of the unemployed. The Color Purple, with its African American ethos, views the problem of gender politics as cultural stereotypes that makes women physical, social, and emotional victims of male sexual agency represented either through husbands and sons. So, drawing on the language and gender theories, the analysis of Ibsen's other plays, including male-dominated play *A Doll's House*, the female characters assert only at the end of or towards the end when they feel confident and want to defend themselves. In the play, Nora hypothesizes more than Torvald the uses of sexist language by male characters for female characters can be seen in the play. The overall results show that dominance and authority reflects through the language used by male characters. It has also been found that the language used by characters in the play is according to their roles depicting their position in the family. The language used by a female character with her husband is different from the language used by her with a friend. The results of analysis show that in a doll's house, language used by Nora with Dr. Rank is different from the language used by her with her husband, Torvald. While in The Color Purple, Sally's stepfather has given a very bad picture of hers to Mr. Albert. When Mr. Comes to ask for Nettie, the father flatly had refused to give her. Instead, he offers Sally for Nettie. So, in Alfonso's patriarchal language, he tells Mr. as, quote, "You can do everything just like you want to, and she ain't gonna make you feed it or clothe it," unquote. It is obvious that the black man is guilty in all forms of oppression, sexism, racism, and the wrong use of their authority and power either through their authoritative language, sexually, or physically. Waka through Sally has tried to represent the whole community of black women living under the same oppressive conditions. Thus, this reveals the difference between the language used by male and female characters in the selected text. Male speech patterns express confidence and dominance, where female speech patterns express hesitancy and submissiveness, but significantly, it happens only where males dominate. Feminist critics hold the view that females live a life of repression, but Ibsen has created his females differently. He wrote A Doll's House, a revolutionary play when language and gender theorists were of the view that it is mandatory for women to speak the language specified for them. Lakoff goes to the extent saying that, quote, "If she doesn't learn to speak women's language in traditional society, she is dead. She is ostracized as unfeminine by both men and women," unquote. According to the feminist criticism, the roots of prejudice against women have long been embedded in the Western culture and ideology. The gender discrimination advocates such myths that the male is by nature superior and the female is inferior, and the one rules and the other is ruled. These myths of gender and race distort the relations between men and women. It can be argued that Nora and other female figures in the play and Sally and the other female figures in the novel are the best models of the second sex or the other that the French revolutionary writer Simone de Beauvoir discussed in her essay The Second Sex. De Beauvoir argues that throughout history, woman has been viewed as hindrance or a prison. Aristotle also said a female is a female by virtue of a certain lack of qualities. We should regard the female nature as afflicted with a natural defectiveness. Woman is always depicted as secondary to man. She does not exist as an entity by herself, but as the other. So feminist researchers on language expose the oblique patriarchal agenda behind linguistic discourses. They argue that language is one of the strategies used by man to fortify and perpetuate patriarchal ideology. Almost all patriarchal discourses radiate the power relations between women and men. Patriarchy creates an elaborate web of structures through language which reinforces and justifies male dominance. Language as a significant carrier of cultural norms plays a crucial role in labeling one male or female. So, in the conclusion, it is evident from my study of these two comparative texts that understanding who holds power and who is powerless gives the audience an insight into the cultural context of the text. In A Doll's House and The Color Purple, we are presented with two different societies of the whites and the blacks, but all feature uneven distribution of power and in turn leads to inequality between classes, sexes, and within marriage relationships. In order to fully comprehend these aspects of the text and how power influences our understanding of cultural context, it is useful to compare and contrast the distributions of power in different texts and within a variety of social group and culture. This paper has also highlighted the issue of societal cultural construction of gender through the selected text at the expense of language. This paper has also tried to analyze the ways in which language contributes as an important factor in constructing masculine and feminine identities in a society. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for wonderful presentation and being
Thank you,
so
sir.
relevant to your topic. Thank you.
Thank you,
Now
sir.
the final presenter of this session is Akriti Kumari from Central Institute of Jharkhand, Ranchi, Jharkhand. And the title of her presentation is Abdication of Bliss Compelled by Social Pressure in LGBT Community.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you're quite very good.
Yes, you are audible.
First of all, good evening, everyone, and I would like to thank everyone for giving me this opportunity for presenting my paper on abdication of bliss compelled by social pressure in LGBTQ community. LGBTQ community is LGBTQ is an abbreviating queer term for the people identified as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community. This communicates generally celebrate pride, diversity, individuality, and sexuality. LGBT activists and sociologists see LGBT community building as counterbalance to heterosexism, homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, sexualism, and conformist pressure that exist in larger society. Suppression of self-happiness in LGBTQ community. Due to socially constructed expectable norm, they suppress their emotion, love, and happiness. Social pressure has a strong impact in their lives, thus they fail to live up with their own wishes and emotion. They don't accept themselves, rather they go with what is acceptable in society. Lihaf or the Quilt by Ismat Chugtai. Lihaf is a short story by Ismat Chugtai published in the Urdu literary journal Adaf I Latif. The story is told from the perspective of a small girl, niece of the protagonist Begum Jan. She had a very depressing life after the marriage. She was into a forceful marriage with Nawab, who was interested in same-sex gender. Nawab married Begum Jan just because it's compulsory in society. Begum Jan was deprived of all the love and physical desires. She was left all alone. Thus, to fulfill her desires, she went into sexual activities with her Masak Rabo. One did not know when Begum Jan life began, whether it was when she committed the mistake of being born or when she came to Nawab's house as a bride, climbed up the four-poster bed and started counting her days, or was it was when she was through the drawing room Though the increasing number of firm-clad, supple-waisted boys and delicacies began to came from them, from the kitchen. Begum Jan would have glimpse of them in their perfume, flimsy skirts, and the feel as they thought she was being racked over burning embers. This was said by Ismat Chugtai in her text Lihav. The next text which I took is The Truth About Me, a Hijra Life Story by A. Revati. The Truth About Me, a Hijra Life Story was an autobiography by A. Revati, a male who adopts a female gender identity. The book was translated from the original V Gita. She finds difficult in getting employment, social recognition, or living together with family. She lacks family support and leaves her house, also deprived of parental property. She was having no other source of income rather than beg, bless, or sex worker. Men and even women stared at us and laughed and heckled us. I realized what a burden a Hijra's daily life is. Do people harass those who are men and women when they go out with their families? Why? A crippled person, a blind person, even they attract pity and people help them. If someone has experienced physical hurt, they are they are cared for both by the family and outsiders who came to know of it. But we are not considered even humans. It was said by A. Revati in her text, The Truth About Me, a Hijra Life Story. The final conclusion of my paper is that both the works portrays that LGBTQ community suppress their emotion and need just to be a part of society. They have a fear of discrimination from their families, friends, and society. They often face rejection and forced to leave society or the marriage. They do whatever is required just to be in the society by suppressing their desires. They pray through abdicating their bliss and happiness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Akriti Kumari, for your presentation. You were very confident about your content and presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Now the session is open for discussion. If the participant has any question, query, they can feel free to ask. Is there any question?
I don't think, sir, there is any question. I think we can
I
move
think we are running out
towards
of time and there is no question as well.
yeah.
So, shall I offer my feedback? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Once again, I thank the organizers for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And I thank all the paper presenters for their excellent presentation and also adhering the time. I would like to offer my feedback about the presentation by the paper presenters. The first paper presented by Enchung Thang Mari, and the topic of his presentation was a study of income generation activities of self-help group and motivational level of women self-group members in Nagaland. His paper was a study about income generation activities that we come to know. Second thing, he speaks about inclusion of women in various sectors and talks about its significance. I appreciate the researcher for because this paper aims to empower women in various fields. It is a case study. It includes or covers 4 districts of Nagaland, and the researcher should be congratulated for this real life context. But what I believe is it should be limited to at least 2 districts. This is my opinion, and it should be comparative or contrastive in nature, because 4 districts would be a comprehensive data for a research paper. Now, the second presenter Second presenter was G. Ramakrishnan, I think. And the topic of his presentation was a comparative study of Sikandi, who became man to satisfy her wife, and 7 steps around the fire. Again, this paper was a comparative study. What I noticed is that this paper focuses on transgender identity. It highlights seriously the practices of discrimination in the name of religion, caste, class, gender, and so on. It also defines the significance of social acceptance and the role of laws. Uh, but the another thing which I noticed about G. Ramakrishnan sir was I think he was in quite hurry to end up uh, his talk and his discussion. I don't know why he was in hurry, because the content was good, topic was good, he was presenting in a well manner, but I think he was in hurry. Then the third paper is by Sultana Rizwana Yasmin, independent researcher, Guwahati University, Assam. And the title of her presentation was Gender, Culture, Language, and Literature through the perceptions of female issues in the selected texts. She undertakes the study of gender, culture, language, and literature through the perceptions of female. Her paper deals with the issues of women. She tries to expose both constructive and deconstructive role of language in the construction of female identity. She has evaluated A Doll's House by Henry Gibson and Color Purple by Alice Walker. There is one more suggestion for Sultana ma'am is I think the title of research paper is an elaborative in nature. Therefore, the researcher should limit the topic, or she can go with any one of them. As we know, the discussion over the topics like gender, culture, language, literature is going to be very comprehensive analysis and could be a topic of MRP, that is major research project. So she should, what I believe is, concentrate either on gender or culture or language or literature. This is what I believe. And the final presentation is by Akriti Kumara, Central Institute of Jharkhand, and the title of presentation was Abdication of Bliss Compelled by Social Pressure in LGBT Community. Before I say more about that presentation, I would like to appreciate Akriti Kumara for taking up the less discussed topic, that is social pressure in LGBT community. This paper is also a review on operation of the voice of LGBT community. It also studies the impact in the lives of LGBT community and how they fail to live up with their life choices. And she has evaluated Liha by Ismat and The Truth About Me by Arati. I think there is no solution to Akriti Kumara. She has explained the details and her presentation was very confident. I think Abhimanyu sir, this will do. This is enough. Is this enough?
Yes, sir. You have very thoroughly described about the papers, and the best part is you have given them the scope also where they can improve and produce, or not produce, but do better research or at the another level for what they are doing now. So it is a great insight. Not everyone is able to do so. So you have given the right insight to the scholars and the researchers.
What I was looking for, that the researcher should take up the issues like gender and language, gender and psychology, gender and culture, gender and history, gender and the writings of men, women, LGBT. Then here I found the issues of identity crisis, the representation of gender in cinema and media, gender and politics. We can talk about gender roles, gender bias, and gender specificness. This is what I would like to suggest to the presenters. And thank you once again for giving me this wonderful opportunity.
So
And
thank you,
all the best for
thank you.
the remaining guys. You are welcome.
Yes,
You are welcome.
thank you so much, Dr. Shaikh, for your wonderfully chairing the session. It was a pleasure having you here, and you so calmly and nicely, with patience, listened to every paper, jotted down all the details, and discussed so well. Thank you for your time and energy,
You're
putting in
welcome,
your
sir. You're welcome.
energy. And I hope to see you in our further such literary events also, where we can interact and learn from you.
Certainly,
Thank
sir.
you so much,
Certainly.
and
It's a learning
I
experience
would
for me
like
as
to
well,
close.
sir. It's a learning
Yes,
experience
sir.
for me as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank
It
you,
is for
and
everyone, whoever.
have a pleasant time. Thank you.
So, I would like to close this session, and I would like to invite the participants and the chairperson of the next session. For our next session, we have Dr. Swati Chauhan. Uh, Dr. Swati.
Yes, yes,
So,
Abhimanyu sir.
hello,
Good
hello, Dr.
evening.
Swati. It's pleasure to see you again.
Thank you,
Yeah.
same here.
So, let me introduce Dr. Swati to all the participants and the guests here. She is Associate Professor of English in Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies in Faridabad, and she has 17 years of experience in teaching at UG and PG level. She is amazingly, which I'm very impressive, ma'am, and she's a gold medalist also. I really wonder how people get gold medal in the literature. It is, no matter how much you write. So your gold medal speaks of your precision and your analytical brain, how you see at literature. Apart from that, she has lots many things in her profile which I could go and entire 1 hour will be dedicated to Dr. Swati's profile. So if to cut it short, she had participated as an organizer also, and I have witnessed it. People, many of the moderators see the profile and talk, but I have seen Dr. Swati, how hardworking she is, how loyal she is to her work. I remember doing an FDP with you, ma'am, I think just few days ago. So diligently,
Yeah.
so dedicatedly, she sat there throughout the time in such heat and hot temperature in front of the computer, and so alert and actively participating in everything. So this speaks, that is why you deserve a gold medal, ma'am. This shows off your hard work. So she's also the reviewer of the editorial board of SSPS International Journal, and Dr. Chauhan is an active member of Gandhi Nari Kalyan Smriti, affiliated to All India Women's Conference, New Delhi, and she is also the counselor of Indian culture in Dev Sanskrita University, Shanti Kunj Haridwar, and she is also the member of ELTAI too. She has so much to her credit. I don't want to be a barrier between you and the participant, because I have seen the titles of the paper. They are really so wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to listen to them and to get their feedback by such an eminent personality like yours, ma'am. I welcome you all and all the participants, and from here I hand it over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Abhimanyu